Hello, fans of Cossack dancing, vodka sculling thugs from Russia and the confusing surrounding areas such as Chechnya, Dagestan, etc. Welcome to Naughty Boy Fight Picks. This is my UFC. What is this card called? Is it just called UFC Moscow, Russia? I believe it's a fight night. I don't have it in front of me. I was just thinking to myself, I think I'm completely prepared for today, but I always fucking forget something. So I don't know what number it is, but it doesn't fucking matter, does it? It's UFC Moscow. I can't even say that. Some people say Moscow, some say Moscow. I'll say Moscow. And that doesn't sound right when I say it, but whatever. I believe it's the first time UFC's been there, so exciting in that sense. As for the card, some real exciting fighters. When I was kind of looking for a fight to watch, not too much stood out. It doesn't, as far as odds go and matchups go, doesn't on paper appear to be the most competitive card. There's a lot of what appear to be very one-sided matchups, and with a lot of the Russian and surrounding area based fighters heavy favorites, which is often the case even when they're not fighting in Russia. I think the style of fighter that comes out of those areas is, solid, reliable style for winning fights. So perhaps that's why occasionally you see Russian fighters favored in the odds to a degree that you may not agree with. So yeah, interesting there, and a lot of names I'm not very familiar with. So looking at this card, I found some spots to bet, and I parlayed some heavy favorites together. But yeah, it was kind of a difficult one in terms of looking into, and with not much time, as my continual struggle with this is just finding the time to really dig in and do proper research. So in that lies my disclaimer. Nowadays, before I just used to run down the fights that I was betting. Now I try and pick the whole card just for fun, really. I ain't tracking it or nothing. It's not important to me. My money's important. But so yeah, take everything with a grain of salt, because I'm not familiar with heaps of these fighters. With that, we might as well get into the card. Where are we? See, prepared as ever. The opening fight, we have Merab Dvalishvili versus Tyrion Ware. I believe Ware is on a 3-fight skid in the UFC, maybe 2 or 3. And Merab Dvalishvili, I think most people will be familiar with him, with a massive takedown game and top control and all of that. And yeah, Tyrion Ware, I think, is pretty outmatched in this fight, and I suspect Merab will have his way with him. So not too much to elaborate on there, but I believe Merab wins this fight. Method, probably decision, but we shall see. And with that, we'll move on to the next fight. We have Ramazan Emeev, who has fought in the UFC before, against Stefan Sikulich. No fucking info on Stefan. I didn't look into this. I wasn't going to bother. So I got no knowledge, but for the purpose of making a pick, let's just say Ramazan wins this fight. That's at welterweight. Next fight, not dissimilar from the last, we have Adam Yandev versus Jordan Johnson. Both fighters are 9-0, which is interesting. I want to have a look at the odds for this before I make a pick, because I just don't have any knowledge of these guys, so I will most likely just pick the betting favorite if he's heavily favored. And I think it was Jordan Johnson, if I recall correctly. I will have that information in a second. Yeah, so Jordan Johnson, pretty heavy favourite there. Um, he has fought in the UFC before. I'm not sure what his record is, but let's just go with Jordan Johnson. And like I said, don't fucking trust me on that because, as you can tell, I have no background information there. You may, by this point, be wondering why I'm doing this video or why you are watching it. But yeah, I think I have some good insights into the fights later on. I forgot to say at the start too, forgive me if I'm looking a little red. I just exercised, and that's what happens to my complexion if I exert myself. So yeah, that's why I'm fucking beetroot red at the moment. Next fight up, we have Magomed Ankalaev versus Marcin Prashinyo. And yeah, once again, no info. This is light heavyweight. Would be nice to see some new prospects in that division. So Ankalaev 9-0 undefeated. Let's go with him. He gets the win. Now, next fight up. I did look into this fight. Shout out to Rockstar Z. Some may be familiar with him. He kind of like hit me up and he was like, "Oh, enjoy watching the tape on Mairbek Taisimov," and indeed I did. Obviously I've seen him fight before. He's on a 5-fight KO streak, and I think his record in the UFC is something like 6-1. But that 5-fight KO streak is insane. So just as I was talking to Z, I saw someone saying that they're betting Desmond Green in this spot, which to me just appears insane. I've got some notes on this here, but obviously I'm picking Taisimov. I got him in some parlays, and if the line shifts in at all, I may look at a straight play, but probably not because I don't think it'll change too much. You got Taisimov here, 26-5. Obviously that 5-fight KO streak. Desmond Green, 21-7. Not a bad record. Taisimov is a finisher who has only been to decision once in his 31 fights. That's fucking insane. Green's results largely go to decision, so 71% of his fights have gone to decision. Taisimov has a strong wrestling game, I think a kickboxing background as well, but yeah, like I said, has those 5 KOs. Taisimov 6-1 in the UFC, Green is 2-2. Taisimov super fast and powerful, uses a lot of movement, but he's really good at, you often see with guys that move around the cage a lot, will not sit down on shots, but Taisimov's really good at spotting an opening, planting, and fucking throwing heavy hands. And they can be, so he's versatile as well, so it's not just like the same shot that he catches dudes with. Like, I think in his last 2 fights, one was an uppercut and then another one was perhaps a right hook. But yeah, he's got different kill shots to get it done. Watching the tape on Green, he kind of, so I think their height is, Green's got a 1-inch height advantage, it says here, but Green kind of fights like a very tall guy, and I think and although he doesn't appear to be super tall for the division, he is very upright, and he rushes into exchanges with his head very upright, which is fucking dangerous against Taisimov. And I'm pretty certain he will get caught, and probably real early, I think, just given the way that Green kind of rushes in. Taisimov's caught guys in the first round who have much better striking defense than Green does. I forget the fight, but he's not a highly touted guy, but what was his name? Can't recall. But one of Taisimov's recent fights, he fought this guy that was clearly a really good striker. He had high-level striking, and he was landing on Taisimov, and His defense looked really good, but once they started to really exchange, you just saw Taisimov trust in his power and be willing to take shots. He would stand right in the pocket and swing, and yeah, he's got good eyes in the pocket too, so he's accurate and, like I said before, powerful. Green's never been KO'd, so there is that, but I think Taisimov beats him if the fight does go to decision, but I think it might be first KO time for Green because he hasn't fought guys like Taisimov who have that sort of power. So yeah, my pick in this fight is definitely Taisimov, and I think by KO, I may look at that prop, but it may not be paying well given how the odds are stacked at the moment and the fact that Taisimov just keeps knocking people out. So the bookies will probably think that's quite a likely outcome too, but we shall see. May play it because I'm reasonably certain that is what will happen. Next fight up, Rustam Khabilov versus Cajun Johnson. Cajun Johnson, I thought the last fight he had was the final fight he had on his contract, so I'd be interested to look into this actually, because it's quite a curious case given his history with the UFC and what he did at the last weigh-ins when he did the fucking to Dana White. If they've recontracted him, that's really fucking peculiar. Cajun Johnson's had a very tough run in the UFC. They keep matching him up with very hard opponents, which is the case here again. Khabilov averaging 4 takedowns per fight, and yeah, I just think that's what is going to happen here to Cajun Johnson, and I think Rustam Khabilov wins a decision. I think I have Khabilov included in some of my parlays. Yeah, I certainly do, actually. Next fight up, Peter Yan, or Yan, I'm not sure how you say it exactly, versus Jin Soon Son. Peter Yan, 8-1. Jin Soon Son, 9-2. And he's from South Korea. Not much info on Jin Soon Son, but just given the performance we saw from Peter Yan in his UFC debut, picking him here to get another pretty easy victory. So got Peter Yan included in some of my parlays once again. Next fight up, Omari Akhmedov versus CB Dollaway. I was thinking about having a deep look into this fight and making a play, but then, yeah, I don't see CB getting the win here, but I think it may be a bit closer than the line is suggesting. But yeah, picking Akhmedov to win this fight here, and yeah, method not too sure, but yeah, I think Akhmedov will get CB Dollaway and win that fight. Next fight, Alexei Konechko versus Thiago Alves. Konechko making his UFC debut. He comes in unbeaten, 18-0. Pretty incredible how these guys come out of this part of the world, and you know competition's tough out there. And these guys like Habib and this guy with incredible records. So yeah, Thiago Alves obviously been around forever. Was he in an early season of Ultimate Fighter? I think he might have been. Anyhow, didn't look into this too far because I just think Alves passed it, and I think Konechko probably gets a pretty easy win here. Next fight up, Andrei Arlovsky versus Shamil Abdurrahimov. I think I said that correctly. Interesting fight here. Arlovsky being the betting underdog, and last time I looked, because I made a straight pick play on him, and then I went back today and the odds had the line had shifted a bit, and Arlovsky was now paying $2.10. I got him at $2 yesterday, so should have fucking held off, but I expected the line to go the other way after I watched the tape. So got some notes on this. Where is it? Yeah, so Abdurrahimov, he's 18-4. He's got 8 KOs, 4 submissions, and 6 decisions. He's 3-2 in the UFC. Those wins, the 3 wins, have come over not the greatest level of competition. He has a loss to Derek Lewis, which no shame in that, and a loss to Timothy Johnson. Appears to be, so by dimensions sake, like height and reach and stuff, similar size to Arlovski, but he does look bigger in the body. Yeah, one thing that surprised me about the betting line is that Shamil is super slow paced, and he only has 1 KO since 2011, and he's had a lot of fights in that time. So, yeah, being that he's slow paced and Arlovski can fight a good pace over 3 rounds or five rounds, as we've seen before, I was surprised to see Shamil the betting favourite, but he did have a pretty good knockout against, what's his fucking name? I forget the guy's name, but he had a knockout in his last fight. Like I said, he appears to like a slow pace, prefers to counter rather than attack first, but you have seen him switch it up because he had that fight with Lewis where he was really gun shy and yeah, not dissimilar from the Ngannou fight where he just stood on the outside and kind of waited for Lewis to do something the whole fight and eventually got fucked up, I think, in the 4th round. And the other interesting thing about that fight too was that despite the very slow pace, around the 3rd, Abdurrahimov appeared to gas, and there'd been like no fucking action, hardly any grappling or clinching. So yeah, concerns about his gas tank there, especially if Arlovski can make him fight at pace. He circles on the outside till the opponent throws, and then he'll try and counter, but usually misses and ends up in the clinch, which he doesn't appear to mind. I think he likes working from the clinch. He was warned for timidity in that fight against Lewis. Then in his next fight, he came out and looked to press the action a bit more. So, bit of credit to him there. Yeah. Oh yeah, and in his last fight too, he led a lot with a really quite accurate and powerful left hook. So he looked a lot better in that fight, and he landed that hook a bunch of times on the opponent whose name I now forget. As for Arlovski, he's 27-16. Some massive losing streaks in that career. I think there's going back not too far ago, and he'd had a 6-fight losing streak. Seems to have been a bit rejuvenated recently. He's been to decision in his last 4 fights. So whilst sometimes that might concern you, I think that's a good thing in this fight, that he's happy to fight the distance and outpoint opponents or attempt to outpoint them. He's really mobile and active. Given how old he is, I guess he's a bit of an anomaly in that respect for this division. He's used a lot of leg kicks, which I really like for this fight, because I think if Abdurrahimov tries to stand on the outside, Arlovski can work those legs, and I think he will land them, and I think he will use them and score, and perhaps even stifle Abdurrahimov's ability to close the distance and attack when he wishes to attack, and slow him down even further. So I think he'll be looking for those in this fight. Arlovski's got really nice takedowns from the clinch, good trips and whatnot. He's been real good in recent fights, avoiding guys trying to bomb on him. So I think that's what Abdurrahimov's game plan will be here, will be to land a big shot early or at any point throughout the fight. But Arlovski's shown, so his last fight was against Tai Tuivasa, who had never been out of the first round And I guess if you were expecting Tuivasa to win that fight, you would have thought it would have been by knockout, given Arlovski's been knocked out a bunch of times. But he hasn't been knocked out for a while, and I think he's modified his game and got good at avoiding powerful knockout artists by being faster and more mobile. So I think that will play to his advantage here. And yeah, he somehow seems to have a good chin. So I think there was a knock on him back in the day that his chin was shot and he was getting knocked out. And then recently he appears to be able to eat the shots. Tuivasa, obviously a powerful striker, and he landed bombs on Arlovski, and Arlovski stayed in there. He got rocked, I think, once or twice, but hung in there and like stayed competitive throughout that whole fight. It was never got really one-sided and reasonably close till the end. I think Tuivasa showed he had a good gas tank also, and a pretty fast, young, powerful guy, whereas Abdurakhimov, I think, will present less problems than Tuivasa did. Arlovski's nice and compact in the pocket, so his striking's very kind of crisp and short. Once he gets in there, he's not throwing big haymakers like a lot of heavyweights will. And the other thing I really like is he usually, if it's not the leg kicks, if he's letting his hands go, he'll throw in combination. So that's going to help him score points in a match like this. I think Arlovski's a lot faster and busier. He's going to throw those leg kicks when Rakhimov tries to stay at range. And I think Arlovski can avoid the power and outpoint him over 3 rounds. So I'm picking a decision here for Arlovski, and I've got a straight play on him. I think I went 4 units, but may look at that prop bet for Arlovski by decision, and then I'll be pissed if he got a fucking knockout or something. But yeah, we shall see. Next fight up, Jan Blachowicz, forget how to say it, versus Nikita Krylov. I think this is pick'em odds at present, and I'm ever so slightly favouring Jan. I considered looking into this because I figured there could be some value on either side, but just too many, unknowns for me to make a play on this fight. Nikita has been out of the UFC after being in the UFC and having a good record there too, so I'm unsure why he was dropped or left or whatever transpired there, but he left. I think he'd like been on a 4-5 win streak in the UFC or something, and then he lost 1 fight, and then he was fighting in, I forget what promotion, but he's been on a streak there, I think 4 or 5 fights, and now he's back in the UFC. So just hard to gauge what that actually means, that streak outside the UFC. And of course Jan, I think, has been on a streak himself in the UFC. Just finished Jimmy Manuwa. Who is the other pretty decent opponent he beat recently? Escapes me at the moment, but yeah, so Jan's been looking pretty good also. He's currently ranked number 4. I think he shot up real high after beating Manuwa, because Manuwa was ranked quite high. So yeah, I'm going to pick Jan Blachowicz in this spot, but I faded the fight because I don't really, I can't see an angle that I'm super confident in, which is less than what I can say for the next fight. Mark Hunt versus Alexei Oleinik. Pretty confident in Hunt in this fight, which is nice to say, and not what we usually get to say with Mark Hunt fights, because usually like his record's ugly, man. It's 13-12, and then Alexei Oleinik's record is 56-11. So if you looked at those, you would think that Alexei is the much better fighter, but you look into their records, Alexei hasn't really faced top flight competition, where that is pretty much all Mark Hunt has faced. So I think when you go and do the tape, you see the difference here. Alexei watched the fight with Curtis Blades, and he was getting outstruck by Curtis Blades, and this was a little while ago too. So Blades striking in his last fight wasn't particularly great. He does have power, obviously, but not a great striker, and he gave Oleinik problems, and Oleinik wasn't able to get in on him to implement his grappling game. He did get the fight to the ground from his back on a couple of occasions, but Blades just got the fuck out of there. So he's obviously super dangerous if you get into territory where he can throw up subs, but I think he prefers to go for subs from top position. So he needs to get you down, and doesn't appear to have a great takedown game. In saying that, Hunt has been taken down, but usually by really, really good wrestlers. So I think here he should be able to keep the fight standing. Threat of the power and the precision should keep Oleinik off him, and Oleinik is about as, his striking looks about as bad as it possibly can at this level of MMA. Super awkward, unathletic, and yeah, I'm picking Hunt to get a knockout probably in the first round. As we know, Hunt's super patient, so it could come later, but yeah, I think Hunt gets a knockout pretty easily in this fight. And yeah, I just think different levels here. Perhaps if Oleinik was a younger man, that could be a bit more concerning, but with Hunt turning 44 now, I believe, fuck, he's nearly 50 years old. That's so insane. But yeah, Oleinik's only a couple years behind him, I think. I think he's like 42. So I think Hunt gets a victory here. First time in Russia, I saw that Tuivasa and those guys are out there with him too, having fun, as they always appear to be doing. So would be real nice to see the much beloved father figure of New Zealand MMA get a win here, get back on the winning track. And I think he's still saying he's got a few fights in him, so yeah, I'm happy to see him continue to fight. I just don't want him to see him fight wrestlers who hold him down for fucking round after round and beat on him, because that ain't no fun. I want to see him fight guys that he can knock the fuck out, obviously. So it'd be great to see Mark Hunt get a win again here. If he loses to a guy like Alexei, then it's probably time to start considering hanging it up, I would say. But who am I to tell that man what to do? He's a fucking legend. So Mark Hunt by knockout. I'm predicting early, but don't be surprised if it comes later, because he is super patient and he waits till he sees that shot, and then he's super precise and accurate. So yeah, I think we see the big Russian go tumbling here, and that is kind of funny how the whole card's set up with all these Russians pretty heavily favored to win, and then in the main event, the Russian being put in a pretty tough spot against a very dangerous striker. So Hunt to win there. I've got him in some parlays. He's only paying like $1.45 or something, so I was considering a straight pick, but then I'd have to drop a lot of chalk to get some value there, and Oleinik is dangerous. We've seen the way he pulls out those fucking ridiculous submissions, so don't think I'll go a straight play there, but I got Hunt in some parlays. That's the card. That's my picks. Let's get into my bets. What have we got here? Oh, fuck, I need to refresh this. So, leg from last week, I had Suarez and then Hunt included, and then Tony Ferguson coming up shortly. That's one of my parlays. Had Magomed Sharipov last week, who came in, and then the rest of this fucking ridiculous parlay is Peter Yan, Taisimov, Ankalaev, Kabilov, and Konechko. I got 3 units on that one. Got Konechko, Volkov coming up soon, and Tony Ferguson. And another parlay, I have Arlovsky, Hunt, and Taisimov in another parlay. And then I have Taisimov, Dvalishvili, and Peter Yan in parlay that's not returning much, but I've dropped 5 units on that because I'm super confident that all those guys will win their fights. So, yeah. Fuck, I was trying to do, because I've been forgetting to do this, I was trying to do fight to watch and fighter to watch. And I didn't really come up with anything. I guess Blakovic versus Krylov could be a fight to watch. Either of those guys look good. That division's thin and they could kind of make some noise for themselves. Fighter to watch, pray Peter Yan. I think he's pray. Oh, it's hard to go him over Mehbek Taisimov though. An interesting thing I thought of watching Taisimov's fights, because I watched one and then in his post-fight he was talking about how he wants a top-ranked opponent, and he absolutely deserves one. And then you think about James Vick wanking on about that, and it's like, fuck, what Taisimov is doing in that division is far more impressive than James Vick. So would really like to see, provided he runs through Bobby Green, I would love to see him get a ranked guy. Surely he will. He's been calling for it for a while and he's deserved it for a while. So yeah, probably go Taisimov as fighter to watch, but also Peter Yan because he looks like a future contender as well. Go to comments we had on the recap video, because there was definitely one fucking brilliant one. Quincy Pinola says my best pick was Zabit by submission. My worst pick was Alex White. He got mauled by Jim Miller. I also won 2 parlays and lost a parlay on Dodson. Aldana was the backbone of everything. Yeah, nice pick with Zabit by submission. And yeah, I didn't really look at props last week. I wish I had have, because that could have saved my night. And quite a few people got at me and they picked a really good prop bets. Shout out to Tony Barnett, who emails me regularly, and he'd sent me a bunch of prop bets to look at, and then revisiting it after the card, if I'd like gone on all his prop bets, I would have made a shitload of money. So shout out to Tony Barnett, he's got a fucking keen eye, and next time I will make sure I have time to properly look at what he is suggesting. Bookworm Bandit, who made the comment on the last week's video about my bedroom, suggesting the potpourri and whatnot. I said, was I serious? There's a Pope shit in the woods. And now this is the comment of the week for sure. On a related 228 note, why wasn't there any discussion about Diego's first kiss and how it made him look rejuvenated and with a new power top game? Brilliant. Thank you, Bookworm Bandit. I don't really have much to add to that, except that's fucking hilarious. Jill says, correct me if I'm wrong, but did I hear you call Mark Hunt your dad in one video and your father in this one? Is this because he is the biggest ass kicker of New Zealand? And yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we're super fond of Mark Hunt here. He's like, in terms of New Zealand media and whatnot, he's been pretty disregarded, I feel. And he's commented on that before, which is a real shame, because he is definitely one of our greatest sporting exports of all time, but mainstream media doesn't really put much focus on combat sports. So yeah, I think he hasn't really been given his respect and due by the media outlets here, but the people definitely fucking love him, especially people from poor communities. Those sorts of people really appreciate that man and what he has achieved. I would really, really highly recommend reading his book. So I work with young men who are in trouble with the law and whatnot, and I've read that book with some of those guys, and they are real inspired by it, because Mark Hunt was from a crazy background and similar background to where most of the boys I work with are from. So his story really speaks to them. It's super inspiring, and where he comes from is just fucking crazy. If you don't know anything about his background, have a look into it, because it's fucking nuts, and it makes you respect that man so much. So yeah, that's why I love Mark. That's why I refer to him as dad. And So when I had this corporate boxing match, the my coach, his trainer, trains Mark Hunt for his striking, and there was coming up to the event. They said that Mark Hunt was probably going to be attending, so I'd intended on after winning my fight, getting on the mic and asking Mark Hunt if he would be my dad, but he didn't end up coming, so that bummed me out. But I have met him before, and true to form, much like you see from his interviews and stuff, he's just super down to earth and just, yeah, just a fucking real human. I think his life has been so crazy that he couldn't be anything other than that. He's like, despite the levels of fame and success he's achieved, he is super grounded and just him. And I think the other noteworthy thing of when I met him was that he was way smaller than I expected him to be. So I guess, you know, we view him here, I don't know about you guys, but we view him as a superstar. So I think that makes you think people are bigger in like physical stature than they might be. Perhaps not, perhaps it's just, but yeah, I think I was a little taller than him, or around the same height, and I was surprised because I expected him to be hulking and terrifying, but he was, yeah, I mean, if he was swinging at you, it'd be terrifying. But yeah, super nice guy. Mark, I can't really read his name. We're gonna put some straight pics. Never mind. We're gonna put some straight pics up. Andrade, Suarez, Woodley after the multis fell through because of the white stamen. Ended up coming out flat. I'm really keen to see what happens with Carolina. She's such a good striker with tremendous heart pressure. Although she was paying around $4 versus Andrade, I reckon that was largely based on the matchup and her being a mini Vanderlei. Hope she pays good in her next fight. I reckon she could take anyone else. As always, love your work, brother. Thanks so much, Mark. Appreciate that. And yeah, I think Carolina's still, well, I can't see her getting to the title now, but she's definitely one of the better fighters in that division. And yeah, she is fucking tough. I think most people were expecting her. So people knew how scary Andrade was, and they're expecting her to bully Carolina. But I think I was expecting, and most people were expecting Carolina to be able to hang in there and go the distance. But no. What up, Bay? This person's got to be from New Zealand, surely, because that's very much a New Zealandism. This is Dodson lost his speed with the Afro gain, reverse Samson syndrome. And then I hadn't seen this comment now, but he said, how disrespectful was Woodley pimping out his single after he beat Till? Which I guess, yeah, it fucking is. Woodley was real strange, I thought, after the fight. He didn't seem like gassed at all. He seemed kind of emotional about getting the black belt, but I think it might be this new tack he's taken in terms of how he presents himself, and he's not wanting to say too much or show too much emotion. Or yeah, no, but it was quite strange, I thought, his reaction to winning. And then, yeah, talking about Wiz Khalifa and his single, I can't fucking imagine it's going to be good. But if it is, fucking props to him. I think he's like too old to start rapping. I can't imagine him making anything that's kind of like really creative or progressive or fun. I think it'll just be kind of like, you know, an old guy rapping. So yeah. Dewey Cooper says, do you think this card showed a few people that would be very reliable to bet on in the future, like Abdul proved he can defend a takedown, Jeff Neal, Tatiana? Yeah, I definitely thought that. I think especially Tatiana's performance. So, man, would have to look at it carefully, but be interesting to see her next matchup and who she gets, because it's definitely going to be someone right near the top. And fuck, it would be hard to bet against her, I'll say that much. And if it's not someone right at the very top of that division, because there's kind of like a cluster of the really best fighters, and then there's some drop off. Then I think, yeah, definitely betting her. Jameem Baj says, I was blown away by Jeff Neal. That dude is really good. I'm gonna keep that full in mind for his next fight. Yeah, fuck, Jeff Neal looked incredible. Joe VOC says, on your prediction video you said there was no value on this card, but I know it's hard to skip betting the card when you're on a heater. Get those units back this week, bro. Thank you. I intend to, and yeah, and I guess like it's always easy to say in hindsight, but there was value definitely in some of those prop bets and stuff, but I just didn't see it. I didn't have much time to look at last week's card, so I ain't sweating it. Just 5 units, still sitting in the top 50. And then UFC for Dummies, giving you a free plug here, says, what's up, bro? I've started my own channel doing similar content. I've been betting for a living since 2015. Best successes with MMA, so I figured I'd bring it to YouTube. The people, as far as the whites, they were both outgunned heavily. The only advantage they had in their fights was opponents' questionable durability and maybe something, but skills-wise, both vets way ahead. And yeah, it turned out that way, didn't it? So yeah, shout out UFC for Dummies. I'll definitely check your videos, which reminds me to have a little subscribe now, which also reminds me for you guys to subscribe if you haven't, and like the videos, all that shit. Help me out. I just got the viewing hours on my channel back up to the point where I can monetize again, so that's cool. My channel gets automatically reviewed once it hits that mark, so I will be monetizing again soon, so I'm interested to see how much that brings in. Obviously not fucking millions, but something, and it could be something that I just withdraw and put straight into my betting kitty, which will be a nice little bonus. So thank you for all the watches and the subscriptions. I appreciate those a great deal. Couple more things. Fuck, we're running up the clock here. Couple things. Oh, so just noticed lately when I've been betting that there's a couple of names who do prediction videos and whatnot, and then I see them on the betmma.tips site, and they got the red circle, which means and the negatives for units 1, which means they're taking losses. And I was just thinking about that, and I was like, because when I first started, I was watching a lot of other guys' videos, and I still do occasionally, not as much now. And I was looking at those videos for insights and direction, I guess. And towards the beginning, I put some stock in what those guys were saying, and now to see that those dudes are not making money, I wonder if there's some responsibility to fucking divulge that you have a fucking bad betting record, because there could be idiots like myself out there listening to you and thinking that you are a good gambler. So just something to consider there. And also, I don't know, it's a weird thing, the whole selling tips and whatnot. I think I've talked about it before, but I got unsolicited email from someone who I won't name, but trying to sell me tips, and then I looked at their record, and their ROI was about half of what mine is, and they had way less units won than me and had been doing it a lot longer. So, you know, it's a funny game. Like, I can't say that I'm going to stay in the top 50 or keep improving. I feel like I am, I'm confident, but, you know, there's no guarantees. But I don't know, I feel like maybe people should be a bit clearer with their audience if they, because I guess just doing a video on itself, unless you state otherwise, is giving off the impression of having some sort of expertise. I think I'm pretty careful to often mention that I'm not an expert, I'm still learning, and I will say when I haven't looked into a fight to a great degree. So I don't know, bit of responsibility there. It's people's money, you're fucking with. So, bringing back the Don't Care department again for this week. First one is Nico Montano. Bit sad the way she got stripped and whatnot, but also just found it really hard to care as well and sympathize. Yeah, just the whole way this is shaken out and the whole way it's happened makes it hard to kind of feel bad for her. So that's the first one. Second one is fucking Snoop Dogg. I think people should just ignore him. He's like obviously smoked himself stupid and has been saying dumb shit for eternity now. Like, and there's obviously the thing with Darren Till where it seems like he thought Darren Till was Colby Covington because he's high as fuck. So yeah, can we just ignore that dude? And then another person that ought to be ignored, which I'm doing the opposite of by speaking about them, but this is the Don't Care department, so this is what we do here. And I don't think it matters because I don't really have an audience, so I can just wank on about whatever. But CM Punk on the MMA, what's Ariel's new show called? I haven't listened, but I saw he was on there. And then I saw someone on Twitter saying like one thing you can say about CM Punk is he's self-aware. And that was because he was saying, oh, maybe UFC isn't the place for me. Not definitely, like self-aware would be saying UFC is definitely not the place for me because I'm a fucking fraud. But fuck, can we stop giving this guy airtime? Yeah, it really pisses me off that people try and paint his story in this kind of like way that it's inspirational and it's a guy fucking, you know, giving it a go, and it's not aspirational at all. It's fucking dumb. The motherfucker's rich and that's why he's where he is. Like, it's an example of extreme privilege and fucking delusion on his part, and he annoys the fuck out of me. So yeah, fuck that. Stop giving him time in MMA media. Can we just fucking let it die? Because we all saw the fights and they were fucking stupid. So did I go over my... Oh yeah, I did go over my bets. So yeah, that's all for this week. What do we got? I'll be back with a recap of the event. Might try and get it done right after the event this week. We'll see how we're feeling. Oh yeah, but it's super early in the morning here, so I should be able to get that done. So alright, I'll make a promise. I'll do a recap, even though way less people watch my recaps. Do a recap of the event on the same day. Shout out to these guys, Itchpig, who I might be doing some shit with shortly. Look out for that. And thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. Good luck with your bets this week. Fucking praying that I get those units back and make some more. I'm feeling kind of confident. I like Arlovsky. I think he's going to come through. So, yeah, peace.